It's amazing sometimes where you can kind of just end up in life. We end up in places where we're doing things we never would have even thought or knew it's even an option, years ago with our lives. And for me personally, I've gone on so many different paths in my life, so many different professions and experiences and passions, and that's all led to kind of where I am right now. So in this video, I just want to share with you kind of my releasing journey, my letting go journey, how I got here, and the benefits that I've personally received from releasing and letting go, so that you have a more kind of personal example that can help you kind of know where you're either headed with your own releasing journey, and just so you can know kind of how this all kind of came to be, why I settled on the techniques that I settled on, and other options that I've tried in the past. So if you're new here, welcome to Golden Mind Method. My name is Dr. Sean Golden, and I help people get rid of the garbage in their mind so that they have emotional freedom and so that they can live their life on their own terms. Now, releasing emotions has actually been something I've been doing for many years, but not in the same way that I'm doing it now. And the techniques that I've used, the skills that I've had, they've evolved over time. And, towards the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing with you kind of where I'm at now and the technique I'm using now that I've found after trying dozens of options, I have found to be the quickest, the most advanced, the best, and just the most effective to get real results. So let's begin. Let's see. My releasing journey started, I would say, about 5 years ago when I was searching for an option or a solution for my social anxiety at the time. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm a chiropractor, and that was my original profession. I was first a teacher. I taught physics and chemistry in high school for a little while, and then I became a chiropractor. And then, once I became a chiropractor, I realized I needed to start seeing patients one-on-one. Now, the problem with that for me was my whole life, I've been just really shy. I've always had this kind of background of social anxiety. And my whole life, I just kind of called it shyness because that's just what it seemed like it was. But it really stopped me and inhibited me from making friends, from going after things, from putting myself out there in certain situations. However, for a large part of my life, I was kind of able to deal with it, work around it. It didn't get so extreme that it became kind of overwhelming in a sense. But I never got over it. I had it as early as grade school is when I remember first having it. And then all the way up through grad school, all the way up till I was a chiropractor. I mean, my whole life, I was incredibly shy. And that shyness was a nervousness. It was a fear of being around other people and talking to other people. Most of the time, it wasn't like a gripping fear, like a panic attack type of thing. But it made me just very inhibited from being able to be the person I wanted to be, from being able to be my true self, from being able to, again, put myself out there, go for things. But this all came to a head when I started seeing patients as a chiropractor, because here I was one-on-one talking to a stranger, and usually I was with them for at least a half hour. So that was painful to me. It was not fun. And what I quickly realized was, if that was a one-time thing every day, okay, fine, I could deal with that. But this was the entire workday. And when I was in chiropractic school, I didn't put this together, I guess, that it would just be patient after patient after patient, where it's just a one-on-one talking, communicating the whole time, all day long. That's my whole workday, 5 days a week. It got to be a lot. It was just It was just very, very draining. And I could tell that it was so draining. And I was so drained at the end of the day. Not because the actual day was hard, but because of how much I was internally resisting just every part of the day. I was resisting every interaction. And I was not looking forward to the next one. Because I would always have in my head, what if I run out of things to say? What if they don't approve of me like this? What if they don't accept me like this? Whatever the case is. A lot of these thoughts weren't even like conscious thoughts I was having. It was just a fear. And it was something I was used to. I had it my whole life. So I finally started to really search for ways to overcome this. Now, I have been searching for ways to overcome this my whole life. I was a super self-help, self-development junkie, really from like about 8th grade all the way through college. Just so many books, so many tools, so many methods. For this problem of mine, nothing stuck, not a single thing. There would be temporary progress, incremental progress, but usually it would just kind of go back to how it was eventually. So it was something I felt like I could just never overcome, no matter how hard I tried. So for the first time in my life, I started seeing a therapist. And in this psychologist that I saw for my social anxiety while I was a chiropractor was using a combination of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. Both are pretty gold standard as far as research goes and effectiveness goes. And the CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, didn't do much for me because most of my problem wasn't a thinking problem. It was a feeling problem. I would just be nervous and I wouldn't know why. I didn't have thoughts. It wasn't like, sometimes I had an inner critic, telling me bad thoughts, but sometimes it was just the feeling of nervousness, just the feeling of shyness that was, at this time in my life, just second nature at this point. So CBT didn't do much for me. ACT did a little bit more, but as soon as I kind of stopped really practicing it and really stopped diving into it, it seemed like the results were temporary and it just everything came back and I was getting frustrated. So one day when I was searching around online looking for other solutions for my problem, I stumbled across something called emotional freedom technique. And some of you might be aware what this is. And this is something that on the surface looks absolutely crazy. But I looked more into it. And what emotional freedom technique is, or EFT, is where you do these tapping points on your face. And what the tapping points do is they essentially calm down your nervous system. Some people say it unblocks meridian energy. Some people say it helps you release the emotions. But what it really does is it calms down your nervous system, and that helps you release the emotions a little bit easier. And that can be pretty effective. I mean, there's EFT practitioners all over the country that are using this to solve major traumas, major phobias. If you look it up online, on YouTube or whatever, there's a lot of people that are using it. It's actually getting pretty popular right now. So I tried it for my social anxiety. I looked into it, I researched it, I learned as much as I could about it. I learned pretty much as much at that point in time as a practitioner would learn, because I really wanted to overcome this, because it was really making my life miserable in many ways. So I dove headfirst into it. And the reason I dove so strongly was because there was a couple people that just had glowing testimonials for EFT for their lifelong social anxiety. So I practiced that for about a year. And what I'll say about that was it definitely helped. It was more effective than anything else I had tried at that point in time. And the research is there. I'll link some research for EFT in the description below if you want to take a look at it. But it does have quite a lot of scientific research at this point backing it up, with very strong effect sizes, meaning it's very effective. Not just for social anxiety, for anxiety, depression, PTSD, pretty much anything emotion related. So I got pretty decent results, but I wouldn't say that I was cured of my social anxiety. And unfortunately, there were times when I was doing really, really well, but then sometimes I would kind of fall back, and it would seem to come back a little bit. Not as much as before. I was very happy I was able to get that far, but what it seemed to me was it seemed somewhat effective, but I felt like the technique itself, the actual tapping, wasn't strong enough. It just didn't have the oomph behind it to really let go of those emotions. So it took a long time sometimes, and sometimes it was difficult to actually let those go. Later on, after about a year of that, I found faster EFT. Now, faster EFT is kind of an evolution to EFT, and faster EFT kind of has a different procedure. It incorporates similar tapping, but then it involves this thing like you think of a positive memory afterwards, you do a deep breath, you say the word peace. It's a little bit more involved, but when I tried faster EFT, the results were actually much, much better than the regular EFT, the regular tapping. In my opinion, it has to do mainly with that positive memory aspect of it. And that you kind of break free. For those of you that know anything about EFT or faster EFT, with EFT, you kind of stay trapped. You kind of stay focused on that emotion. Whereas with faster EFT, you focus on the emotion, then you focus on something else. Then you focus on the emotion, you focus on something else. And that to me was much, much more effective. Almost everyone that I have worked with that has tried both faster EFT and regular EFT have found faster EFT, just the technique itself, to be more effective and faster and quicker. So I was getting a lot more progress with my social anxiety, to the point where I would say I was getting to the cured point with faster EFT. I will shoot a video. I might as well just link it right now. I'll link a video up above to how to actually do faster EFT for those of you that want to know that, how to actually do it properly. However, I haven't gotten to the end of this video yet. Faster EFT, in my opinion, is not the most effective. It's the second most effective. But it is a good close second. The problem with faster EFT is it's kind of like releasing emotions on training wheels. Like, the technique does it a little bit for you, which a lot of people think is good, but it makes you hooked on the technique. You have to always tap. You have to always do the whole procedure, which means it's not as flexible. It's not something where you can just release emotions on the spot, which is where I am now. So it is a great way to release on training wheels. But just like a bicycle, you don't want to keep those training wheels on forever. So, I've linked that. You can find it in the bottom of the description below as well if you want to take a look at that. But that's not my suggestion of the most effective. So, after I was working with faster EFT for a while, I started to come across some other releasing techniques or methods, one of which is called the Sedona Method, which is originally based off of this guy named Lester Levinson, who is really a spiritual master. He had a spontaneous spiritual awakening. He became a fully realized spiritual master. I take that for what you want to take it for. But after he became awakened and he became the spiritual master, he ended up teaching people and training people and trying to allow them to grow like he did. And he developed this release technique, which later on kind of branched off. He's had essentially 3 different students kind of take it in their own directions. One of which is the Sedona Method. The Sedona Method has been around for a while, and it's a way of kind of using questions to allow yourself to release spontaneously and naturally. Now, at this point in time, I tried the Sedona Method. I actually went through the full course, and I found it to be much, much less effective than faster EFT. No comparison. However, the problem wasn't that the method or the whole course was ineffective. The problem was I wasn't actually releasing my emotions, and that's what I struggled with. I would do the Sedona Method. I'd ask myself the questions that they have you ask, and I wouldn't feel much different afterwards. Whereas with faster EFT, I could tell the emotion is gone, and I can't get it back. It's a real release. Now, some people with the Sedona Method, they do kind of figure out how to release on their own, and then it becomes very effective for them. But I would say the vast majority of those who've gone through the Sedona Method, they struggle with the actual releasing part of it, which is the key component. So the Sedona Method was by one of Lester's students. That's who created it. Another one of Lester's students created something called the Abundance Course, or the Release Technique. And with that one, it's the same type of release. I think that the way that it's shown in the Abundance Course is an easier way to kind of get yourself to learn how to release naturally and spontaneously. But for me, it still seemed less effective than faster EFT. So I stuck with faster EFT, and I kind of ignored all those. Then later on, I read Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins, and Dr. David Hawkins was also a student of Lester Levinson's. So for those of you who know, I actually have the book right here. It's a great, great book. Fantastic book. Just like the Sedona Method, just like the Abundance Course. However, in order to get anything out of this book, you have to know how to release. He explains it in the early pages, but if you look online and you look at reviews, you're going to find the majority of people complaining that they still don't understand how to actually release. So even after I read that book, I was kind of using the advice from that book, but using the faster EFT technique to actually do the releasing, because it was the most effective. However, one day I was watching one of the videos by Hale Dwoskin, which is the creator of the Sedona Method. He's one of Lester's students. And Hale, in that video, he just worded the question in a particular way that for me, I clicked with it and I felt a spontaneous release. And what it felt to me was like I had a knotted up ball of energy and it literally just exploded. And that felt more powerful than faster EFT. So for the first time ever, I was like, okay, so I can actually release on my own. I can release naturally. Let me figure out how to do it. So I tried to figure out what was the difference between how he worded the question that time versus all the past times that I tried to release. And I figured out there were some key components. The first was that you can't try to release right away, especially as a beginner. You have to give it time and kind of relax around it. The biggest mistake people have is when they try to release, they try to push an emotion away. You can't push an emotion away. You have to allow it to release. And the way to do that is first to feel the contraction, let that be okay, and then allow it to open up. Just allow it. Now, if you try that right now, you're probably not going to be able to do it. But I created a whole video on showing you exactly how to release the natural way, the spontaneous way, the way that's actually more powerful than the faster EFT approach and quicker. I'm going to link that above right here. You can also find it at the bottom of the description below. If you click the little description, it's all the way at the bottom. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you watch it. And as a beginner, you may have to watch it a few times. But you'll get the hang of it. And when you do, you'll feel something kind of release. At the beginning, it might be small. But as you keep practicing it, you'll notice a big release. Now, the real reason why I knew that this was such a more powerful technique than faster EFT wasn't just because I was able to release more quickly. That was a benefit. Faster EFT was already quick, but this was even quicker. The major benefit to me was as I kept releasing over and over and over, I just, picked various things to release the emotion on, the negative emotion. And let's say I did that for 10 minutes straight. All of that energy that was compressed in here, and this is the only way I can describe it, it expands. It collects in my head. It collects kind of in my body. Sometimes it collects at my feet. It has almost a vibration feel to it, like it's a vibrating feel. Very positive feeling. And the more that I release, the better that positive feeling gets. It's almost like a high feeling. It's a really good feeling. And that's how I knew this was a true release. Because when you're releasing, what you're doing is you're really getting back to your true self. And your true self is totally at peace, totally happy, totally loving. But what we do is we have all these negative emotions that are clouding it. You can think of your true self like a clear blue sky with the sun just shining through it. But because of how many emotions we're just running with all day long, some consciously, but the majority even subconsciously, we're not even aware of them. That's like tons of clouds just clouding that sky. And when you don't release, you might feel like a little bit better, but when you go back to think of the thing again, the emotion just kind of comes right back. When you truly release, either with the natural way or even with faster EFT, when you do it a lot, you'll notice that you're actually removing the clouds. The clouds are dissipating. And when that sun starts to shine through naturally without the clouds there, it's this natural high, positive body feeling to it. And that's how you know you're truly releasing. Now, in the beginning, don't beat yourself up if you don't feel that right away. It's a practice. You'll get there. Now, it doesn't have to take long. For me, once I figured out how to actually release spontaneously, again, using the method that I've shared with you, it's in the description below, I linked it. Once I practiced that for just 1 week, every day I was practicing it for at least a half hour, maybe a little bit more. I could easily, when I would release one thing after the other, eventually get to this very positive, light, vibrating body feel. And since that time, I've been able to release, the releasing just gets easier and easier. It gets to the point where you don't have to release kind of sporadically. Like in the video that I linked, I kind of have you bring up one specific emotion. It takes a little bit of time and then you release it. Once you really practice, it gets to the point where you can just release continuously. It's just an outpouring of emotion that leaves you, which is really good feeling. Very freeing feeling. There's many, many benefits to releasing. I'll link that video above here too if you want to check that out, and that'll also be in the description. Many benefits. I won't go into them all there. You can check out that video if you want to. But it's really changed my life, which is why I wanted to do this work, why I started teaching this, and why I started helping people. Because, just as an example, if you have a project to do and you're just resisting it and you're just dreading it, and you can feel the resistance, you can feel all that emotion that's stopping you from wanting to do that. That's all that's stopping you, is an emotion, a feeling. If you didn't have that emotion or that feeling, you would easily be able to do it. What would be stopping you? There'd be no resistance. You would just do it. So, that's just an example of nowadays when I wake up and I have a to-do list, I can just release all the emotional energy on the to-do list and feel free. Not be going through life with resistance. Not be going through life with emotions that are stopping me. And, again, there's many, many other benefits, but since I started this spontaneous releasing, the natural releasing, and really diving more and more into Lester's work, but also still incorporating some EFT principles, because that's been proven out in many, many years that it works. But instead of using the actual tapping to release, I use the spontaneous releasing method, the release technique. So that's kind of my journey, and that's where I'm at now. And nowadays, I just love helping other people get to this stage. With having, now that my social anxiety is completely gone now, and it's just freeing. It's just freeing to have this type of emotional freedom, to not have those inhibitions, to not have the same worries and fears and grief and apathy and all of those emotions. So that's my story. I hope it was helpful. I hope you kind of saw the progression that I've tried out so many different techniques. And this is really the most effective one that I've found. If you know me at all, I have another channel called Golden Health Method where I talk about health topics with overcoming chronic health conditions with natural solutions. If you know me from there, you know just how kind of hardcore I am when it comes to digging into things and researching things and getting to the bottom of things. I leave no stone unturned. So I went all out in trying to find the most effective way to release and the way that could bring the most benefits to the lives of others. So I hope this really helps you. If you want to work with me, if you want me to help you or help coach you in this, help you gain your own emotional freedom, you can look at the link below and check that out. And, we can work together over Zoom and have some coaching calls or coaching sessions. So if that's something you are looking for, you can find that in the description below. If you have any questions about my journey, about releasing in general, about EFT, about anything, make sure you leave them in the comments below. I love reading the comments. I love replying to them. I love helping you guys out. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed listening to my journey, and I'll speak with you again soon.